Because if you were to view that problem through a different lens, through a different frame, you might be able to see the color, the texture of this challenge. And then ask yourself the questions of like, where does this come from? Why is this in my life? What is it here to teach me today?
It's important for us to recognize what thoughts are coming into our brain, when they're negative, when they're causing us to freeze. But then we need to be able to have tools in our toolbox to be able to get ourselves out of that thought process.
Reframing is a conscious and deliberate choice to view a challenge from a different perspective. And sometimes we're so stuck in our ways and in our beliefs and what we think is right and what we think is good that we're not willing to reframe. And then we wonder why we're miserable.
All right. Welcome to the AlignUs Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nikhil Sharma, and I'm so grateful to have you all here with us today. Today, we're going to be diving into an amazing topic called reframing. And joining us today, as usual, is my co-host, my soul brother, and co-founder of AlignUs, Kevin Drummond. What's going on, bro? How are you doing, man?
Fine. I'm doing great, feeling grateful, ready to jump into this conversation about reframe.
And joining us as our guest, I feel like a soul sister, a true goddess of the reframe, Mona Patel. Welcome, Mona.
What are we talking about again? What are we talking about? No, I'm just kidding. It's so great to be here. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm really excited to dive in with this topic with you. I feel like this is all we've been talking about really for the past couple of weeks, this buzzword.
Months. I know.
Months, that's true. Months. And it's truly been impactful, I know, on my life as well as Kevin's life. I'm sure he'll speak to that in a little bit.
Thank you.
But, before we dive into the reframe, can we just talk a little bit about, what got you to being the goddess or the queen of reframe?
No, I like goddess of reframe. We can keep goddess of reframe. No need to change it.
Goddess. Yes.
And we can even talk about that too, because that has been something that I've been thinking about, is how to align to the divine light truth within you. And that is, kind of the ultimate reframe. So I started in this space of kind of customer insights and user experience almost 25 years ago. My very first project was at the NASA Hubble Space Telescope control room. I had to get a bunch of scientists to change a behavior. So they were kind of doing these individual tasks and they needed to work together and they didn't want to work together. So I had to figure out, how do you get people to do something that they don't want to do? In that case, it was a very simple solve. I ended up getting a projector for the back room. They didn't have that. It was 1990 something. And so just the projector forced them to look up. And as they looked up, they would talk to each other. And that was kind of a great example of a signature move that I started to make in this space, where people would be thinking about a problem from this perspective. And I would almost always come in and look at it from a different perspective, almost innately, and then be able to offer a different solution because I was looking at the problem differently. That, really helped my career go fast. I think I got promoted once or twice every year while I worked for someone else. So like very aggressive, achievement oriented.
I promote you too. I mean,
I just kept asking. For the women listening, I just kept asking. I was tenacious, in my 20s. And I was like, well, what does it take to get more? Because I wanted more money, because I wanted to spend more money. But regardless, so I did, the first digital camera with Kodak. This was a time when people were very used to taking pictures and having a photo box. Like, how do you move them to digital? A lot of the first websites, did a ton of work with NIH, about 5 years across 17 of the 34 institutes to help them move to digital from their grant application process to just providing the American public with the right information that they can trust on everything, from earaches to cancer. And so did a lot in the medical space, did a lot in finance because finance paid more than anyone else. So worked with, BlackRock, Capital One, Citibank, a whole number, E-Trade, a whole number of brands to help them understand how to convey information to people so that they do the things that are good for them to do, save money, invest money, things like that. I ended up starting my own company in 2009, and that was a user experience company. We hit the Inc. 5000 a couple of years in a row. I did a TEDx talk. it was just constantly go, go, go. In 2013, I came up with the Reframe process. 2015, I launched that book. And so I was so focused on kind of what's next and getting ahead that it kind of caught up to me, to be honest. And then in 2020, when we had to shut down everything, I actually was one of the most grateful humans on the planet for this virus. And I felt bad about that, but there was no stopping me, from getting ahead. And so I needed, something at least for me to stop and take stock of like, I'm exhausted. The thing with burnout is you don't know you're burned out until you're burned like completely. And you're like, huh, yeah, until you're ashes and you're like, huh. Yeah. So it's been a really hard and kind of aligning process. This is why I love what you all talk about and do so much, and why I'm here, to support this community, because that alignment was the key for me, of who I am, what I'm here to offer. And I have two very good friends who saw the power of Reframe about 1.5 years ago when I helped them with the challenge. And, the 9-minute thing is, it is true that, you do get reframed in 9 minutes. I've done over 700 of these in the last year and a half. It's
magical, for sure.
It is really magical. And it's like, so Mona, it's like, why do you have to do it in 9? Because people don't have time and they don't believe. And part of my job in reframing is to give you hope and give you something to believe in again when you feel stuck and lost and confused. And so this has been the most amazing gift, over the last 1.5 years that I get to do this. I get to bring people together and like reconnect us with humanity, like really listen to people and where they're struggling, really offer them our best ideas without judgment, without any kind of air of ego, and really kind of as much as we can, a pure connection, or the opportunity to see that you're not in that pure connection when you offer that. And then a minute, 1 minute to come back to the person and see like what kind of change is here for this person. Are they going to, or are they not? Because reframing is a conscious and deliberate choice to view a challenge from a different perspective. And sometimes we're so stuck in our ways and in our beliefs and what we think is right and what we think is good that we're not willing to reframe. And then we wonder why we're miserable. But it is because you are not letting go of the frame that doesn't serve you and opening yourself up, which is absolutely scary. I mean, fear is scary. It's by definition, it's scary. So, but when we get the courage to overcome our fear, you can see it in that minute. And some people do it and you get very excited, and some people aren't ready, and you send them love and, hope that they will be at some point. So it's a really beautiful process. I do it a lot for organizations because that's just my background. And I do really like when teams work well together. As an entrepreneur, when my team didn't work well together, it was so much stress for me. So, whatever I can do to come in and help people get their teams aligned, focused, navigating in the same direction, vulnerable, clear, open. I mean, this is what the teams get as a result of doing these sessions. That feels great. But then even when I do them for free on Fridays and at retreats and so on, when people bring their more personal challenges, it's so humbling to see how, like, we're all in pain. We all have something that is just not working, and we're not telling anybody, and, we're not even able to articulate it, and every single one of us. And so like, that is really kind of what keeps me doing it again and again.
Yeah. Wow. So many beautiful things there. What really resonated, with me at first was when we talk about COVID, and I think a lot of other people had a similar experience, was that it was actually a life-changing moment. And the reason why that was is, like you said, I was also in the mindset of constantly going, and never spending any time sitting down, reflecting, analyzing what's going on in my body, my mind, realizing that I was maybe burning out. Are the values that I'm currently having right now align with the values that I, truly believe in, or even evaluating values at all? I was just in such a state of flux, and constantly chasing the next high or the next milestone, because that's what we were conditioned to do when we've been growing up. It's always been like, okay, now you got to get straight A's in middle school, then high school, then you got to knock out the SATs. Otherwise, you're not going to be really successful. Then you got to get into, for me, medical school. Otherwise, if you don't, you're going to be considered a failure. Then when you're, residency, which one, and it's like this constant, like uphill climb that had no final destination, that was really clearly put into my brain. I didn't see what the final destination was. So COVID was really instrumental in allowing me to just slow down and then start building up, a foundation that was more aligned with who I am now compared to who I was when I first started this journey. And I know a lot of other people had a great experience. So I love, that you also felt that same process. And I think there's going to be a lot of other great innovations that actually are going to occur in the next couple of years based on the fact that we all experienced COVID. And I feel like during boredom, that's when our greatest innovations come.
Even, there's definitely the boredom, though I was not, because I had 2 kids at home and I wish I had the boredom time. I think also just the preciousness of life. Like I spent a lot of time thinking about, wow, if this was my last year on earth, like I made a lot of money. So, I did a lot of things. I had a lot of awards and a lot of achievements. Like, where were those going to go? Like, I'm getting cremated, like, not, they're coming nowhere. So it just made me feel stupid, actually. COVID made me feel really stupid, just kind of like, what have I been doing and where have I been focusing? And who's driving, I guess, and that's where we made the joke about the goddess, but actually I had to find her in me, that kind of deepest knowing. I would say it's a synonym for intuition for me. It's not impulse, which is very desire based. Like I need a bag and I want a burger or whatever, right? It's not instinct, which is fear based, and protecting myself and survival, which a lot of us were in during COVID. For me, I was like, well, I can't live here. So where is my intuition? Like, what is the deepest knowing that I have about who I am, why I'm here, what I'm meant to do, who I'm here to help? Do I have these gifts that everyone has told me that I have? And if so, am I going to use them? Or am I going to keep hiding and playing small and, focusing on money versus impact? Not to say I didn't do a lot of nonprofit and impact work. I don't want to make it seem like that, but it was just, it was so empty inside when I looked. And I was like, well,
your purpose.
Yeah. I'm like, where am I going to fill this from? Outside? No, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, look, what you just said right now was what a lot of people I feel kind of go through is when you start this self-awareness, personal growth journey, there's a lot of guilt and shame that starts overwhelming us, actually.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of looking back at what has happened, and we are paying a little bit closer attention to what our role was in that specific situation. And that can bring upon a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. And so what happens when that happens? Our brain, we feel this stress that kind of overwhelms us. And when our brains get stressed, there's like inflammation that occurs. I want people to think about when you hit your knee on a tabletop, that pain that occurs, right? Initially, your knee feels like it's, there's a lot of pain going on. You feel a little bit restricted. So think about the same thing that occurs when a stressful situation happens to you, or an obstacle comes in your way, or adversity hits. It affects your brain first. And so it starts this inflammatory process, and that causes a little bit of swelling, and that causes a little bit of brain fog, right? And so all of a sudden you get these negative thoughts that start compiling on each other. And our brain is just such a special organ that it wants to validate those thoughts that are in our heads. So what does it do? It literally causes us to pull in more negative experiences that we've had to validate the current thoughts that we're having, that, oh yeah. That makes sense, because I remember when this happened back then, you also felt the same way and the same results occurred. So just stop doing what you're doing or whatever it is, and then escape whatever's going on in your brain, right? Like that's one other thing that is occurring right now, is that we always want to get out of that painful situation. But we tend to use poor coping mechanisms to do so. When there's a beautiful mechanism called the reframe that can help us get us out of those negative thought processes.
What a sell. No, I'm going to give you everything you need to know about this 9-minute process so that there is no sell. You can do this, and I'll even give you some shortcuts if you don't have 9 minutes. So we can definitely chat about that. The first thing that you need, Nick, kind of right off of that is self-awareness. And I can tell you there's not one thing more attractive in another human being than self-awareness. Somebody who is absolutely paying attention to how they're showing up in the world and the impact of external factors on them, and then their choice to do or not do something about it. And so that awareness, kind of think of that as a pillar of reframing, because if you don't have that, I have just seen time and time again, there's no chance you're going to get reframed. You are in the frame and you don't know you're in it. And so when that happens, the reason why I have a group process is that it's almost always what's happening. So right now, there is a situation in your life that you don't even think is a situation, with air quotes. It is a thing that just is. It's just how it goes. It's how it is for me. It's who I am. And so you have a frame that in which you view the world. My frame is different than your frame because I grew up differently than you. I have different values, with air quotes again, which are, again, beliefs taught over time about what's good, what's not good. But if I lived in Dubai, I would have very different ones. If I grew up in a Muslim family, I would have very different ones. If I grew up outside of my family, I would have very different ones. And so the frame that I think is true, that I think is right, that I must that is the problem. And we think the problem is the problem, but the frame is the problem. Because if you were to view that frame, if you were to view that problem through a different lens, through a different frame, you might be able to see the color, the texture of this challenge. And then ask yourself the questions of like, where does this come from? Why is this in my life? What is it here to teach me today? And then if you come to a reframe session with me with that mindset, you are going to have an epic experience, which, by the way, Kevin and Nick, you do every day. That's why you guys did. I can't wait for you to share yours. But like, if you can come with the kind of openness that the two of you have in life, then you get reframed on the regular. Yeah. And so what happens is you have your frame. For the first 3 minutes, I ask you to share your challenge. And that is for me to understand your frame, your stories, the things that you think are true, where you're holding yourself back, where you're using labels, what your personality, meaning how you see yourself is, and how that's probably the main thing, And so the rest of us are, in a way, assessing, but very kindly, what are the dots that this person is using to go from A to Z? Because I would not have gone there. If I met Nick, I would never think I would ever have imposter syndrome. It just wouldn't even occur to me. I'd be like, I'm a doctor. I'd tattoo it on my forehead and that would be that, And so like you look at it different. You're like, look at that. He did something that I can't do. Why would he have, something that I want, to be? Like, why would he have a view to doubt himself? So it doesn't occur to us, but it does occur to you. And so then in those 3 minutes, we get to kind of observe that and then use that for the next 5 minutes, which is when we offer what if and I wonder statements only. This is part of that magic, because when you start a statement with what if or I wonder, it lands with less defensiveness. And you start to understand that when you communicate with people, it's not about you and what your thoughts are and what you think is right. It's about the person. And how do they need to hear the words, the right tone, the right language, the right pacing, the right speed even, so that your thought lands for them. And so although the person who presents for the 3 minutes is the person who gets all the answers and the ideas, really this is a very beautiful practice for you when you're in the 5 minutes to learn how to give people a thoughtful idea. And too many leaders don't know how to do it. I'm just going to say it as bluntly as I can. They're notoriously bad at actually giving people feedback in a way that empowers them.
That's right. No, that's right. That feedback and the way we communicate that feedback to others is instrumental in how that person is able to receive that feedback.
Yes.
And if it's coming from a place like I wonder if,
And what if?
and what if, or I wonder. It's like allowing our brains to be open to the idea, of other possibilities in a more, I guess, in a nicer manner, just to say,
it is. I mean, lessons learned from doing it the wrong way for me.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure I'm not on any high horse here. Like mostly it's because I gave really bad feedback. And I even to my son, my 14-year-old thinks I, ask a lot of leading questions, even when I do what if, because my tone, is like, well, what if you did your homework on Friday instead of Sunday? And my tone is telling him what I think he should do. And it just never works. It does not working. And so, it's a practice for all of us. I have many, many what ifs that I have a little tone and a little edge in. I'm still working on it too. And that is the practice. That's why I encourage people to do this, not just once with their teams, but across months, because you will get better at it and you'll build a muscle at listening and then offering, And so again, first 3 minutes, person on your team shares their challenge. Then they're going to turn around or turn off their camera. 5 minutes, we're going to give them what if and I wonder questions. And then 1 minute they come back and that's when you see what landed. They have a one-word feeling. If that can come up for them, that's really hard for people. So, you may drop that for the first couple times and then add it in. But it is important to hear. They said they were frustrated, stuck in the first 3 minutes. What are they feeling now? Because to my knowledge, this is the fastest and most reliable, because I've done it again, like 700 times, way to get people from fixed mindset to growth mindset. From I'm stuck, I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed to I'm hopeful. I'm inspired. I feel heard. Those are all better places to be, even from a brain perspective.
That's right. And going back to that analogy with our knee being hit on a tabletop, we need to allow that knee to rest, to expand, to allow blood flow there. Just like when we need our brain, when it's spiraling out of control with negative thought processes, well, we need to be able to rest that brain, but then be able to reopen that brain to allow for solutions to occur. Because when our body is stressed and our minds are stressed, we're not able to think as clearly as we need to, and our mind is very restricted. So, with the ability to reframe, it then allows us to get out of that negative thought pattern about what we're thinking into a possibility of opportunity and growth and solution, most importantly.
Yes, exactly. And
Kevin,
even if it's not solution, it could just be hope.
Hope.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, just getting us out of that negative spiral of thought process, because that, as you guys know out there that are listening, can become very debilitating. That negative thought pattern can last anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours to days. And what happens? Our fight or flight and our freeze starts kicking in, and we're literally frozen. And some people are so frozen that they can't even get out of bed because those thoughts are just overwhelming them, and it's important for us to recognize what thoughts are coming into our brain, when they're negative, when they're causing us to freeze. But then we need to be able to have tools in our toolbox to be able to get ourselves out of that thought process, to get us and to move towards the right direction. Kevin, question. I know you went through the reframe process. Just tell us and tell the viewers a little bit about your experience with that, because I know it seemed to be something that has been life-changing for you, and truly. And I feel like all of our conversations nowadays, when we meet in the mornings to go over what needs to happen this week, there's always some sort of reframe, because there's so many obstacles that truly happen on a day-to-day basis where looking at the reframe and using the reframe method helps us overcome those obstacles. And like Mona said, with practice, with time, it starts becoming pretty innate in our everyday being, and almost becomes automatic to be use that process to help us get through and get us more in a more empowered state instead of that victim state.
Definitely. So first off, Mona's skill set is amazing. Your ability to reframe anything in someone's world and give them hope, like you said, give them the ability to think outside of themselves, because that's what it comes down to. You have to think outside of your ego, because your ego is built off of experiences and beliefs, like you said. And you gave me another reframe just now as you were describing the reframe for our audience. You referred to the frame. And the frame, what I heard in that moment was, wow, it's the frame of life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you look at everything in your life?
Yes.
And in regards to what you said, Nick, how has Reframe shaped my life? It has caused me to be more intentional in everything that I do. More importantly, with my children, even, and the words that I choose to use. For example, we were talking earlier, and you said it just now, obstacles. There's so many different obstacles that come our way. And I heard my daughter bring that up the other day, and it caused me to reframe in that moment. And I said, okay, why is it that you're calling it an obstacle? She's like, well, it's hard and it's taking me a long time to understand. And I was like, okay, so this is going to cause you to be more persistent and try more and to practice. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, are you going to quit? She's like, no, I'm not a quitter. And I was like, exactly. So are you going to become more brave after this? She's like, yeah, because I would have been able to do it. And I was like, exactly. I was like, so do we really need to call it an obstacle? And she was like, no. She's like, I need to thank it. She's like, it's helping me become better. And I was like, yes.
That's amazing.
And that's literally, yeah. That's what I said to Nick earlier today. I was like, now I'm looking at things as opportunities to grow.
Yes.
Anytime things come my way, instead of looking at it as something that's trying to hurt me or, woe is me, or things are happening to me, not for me. That was another reframe. Instead of things happening to me, now I think that things are happening for me. We all have the ability to reframe and relabel and re-identify everything that's happening to us. So I would say the intentionality, if you're just open to being able to think outside of yourself and things that you've always accepted to be true and question it, I think that's a great way to start.
Yeah.
And I think that's where self-awareness started for me, which you said is one of those pillars, is being able to question, okay, why am I this way in this situation? And not just feeling like, oh, well, that's just because I am who I am. Like, this is the way Kevin is. It's like, wait, no, you have the ability to choose who you are.
That's exactly it. I mean, sometimes I think of it as like, I spent like a year learning how to do playwriting. And as like a director or a writer, you're thinking about like, who's this character? Who's the character that is responding in this way? And, is this the character I want to have today and moving forward? So, like when we insert a choice point in, we give ourselves an opportunity to be different today. And I think that's the hardest thing for people, because our brains are wired in such a way to keep us in a pattern of familiarity. Then whatever we did yesterday, a good chunk, 80% usually, is how I think today, what I do today. And if we don't insert a choice point in morning pages, in a meditation, in a run, whatever it is, to say like, today, is this character need any refinement? This character of Mona, there's a lot that I'm seeing that I don't actually want to carry with me. That's very overwhelming. So then every day I'm asking myself, like, so how can I approach this thing differently? Like today, I'm taking the afternoon off to go meet a friend. It is a work meeting, but it's also like I padded it just to have a little more time, because that is how I treat myself now, and it goes against everything I know about how to operate on a Wednesday, and how to make money on a Wednesday. But deeper in me is like, I actually need to think about what I want to say in this meeting. And then I want to think about whether it's a really important meeting, whether this is how I want to continue. And so, that ability to say, Mona is different now. She does things differently now. And like just that checkpoint is like an opportunity for you to give yourself a reframe every day. So this 9-minute process, it's like very sexy and fun for corporations, but it's also training wheels. It's just a way I'm teaching you. It's like Montessori, right? I'm teaching you through blocks. And then once you get it, you don't need 9 minutes. I don't need 9 minutes, though I still love it. And like I do volunteer sometimes. I'm like, I want to go, because it is really nice to have other people share with you what they see. But on a day-to-day basis, you can also be splitting your personality, as dangerous as that sounds, to a higher self and your egoic self, and asking yourself, like, how am I going to go get 1% toward the direction of the man I want to be, and who I know I am.
That's right. And this reframe, it can work on any problem that you are having in your life. Literally anything you're dealing with, whether that's a fight with your best friend or something going on with your child, or, in my case, I was dealing with imposter syndrome. And, for those who don't know, yes, I'm a physician, but I was going through a major transition, and all of a sudden I've started a tech company and become like this entrepreneur. And, despite having my background and, education, I still felt like this is something new that I'm getting into. I don't have that necessary experience in entrepreneurship. I didn't get my MBA, and so these are the thoughts that started ruminating in my brain. Like, man, looking at all these powerful CEOs of companies, and then I was looking at myself and being like, I don't really have those credentials. And so when I got a chance to sit down and do a reframe with Mona, it blew me away, and I think the best way to approach reframes is to be as vulnerable as possible, and to have the most open mindset and to be able to receive information, and that's really important for you to be able to look at a problem in a new way. So for me, going in, talking about, man, all these different things are running through my brain. Do I deserve to be here? And, just think about this for 1 second, how just having that thought pattern can literally stop you in your tracks and stop you from pursuing your dreams. And it's a real reality, right? Where we're in this one world and we're so used to that world that to change it's really hard. And it requires a lot of steps and a lot of processes. And there's going to be a lot of ups and downs and a lot of adversity. And so our normal thought pattern, in our CNS is trained to be in comfort. So whenever something tough comes around, we're going to be like, whoa, I'm not dealing with this shit. You know what I mean? This is too much. Like, whoa, I have to worry about funding. I have to worry about this. And how the hell is this going to happen? Like, no. Let me just go back to my job as being a physician in the hospital. Oh, by the way, I was really miserable there. I was building up a lot of resentment, but you know what? At least I was making a lot of money, and people call me doctor, and all these things, right? Like these great accolades, like you said earlier, that you're hanging your head upon, but I wasn't feeling that substance anymore. I wasn't getting that fulfillment. My soul's passion, had shifted, and that's okay. So when I went into this entrepreneurial journey, those obstacles came up. When I went in to talk about it with Mona, I was like, look, this is what's going on. And so then I started hearing from the group that I was with things like, I wonder if you realize when you are growing or you're changing professions, there's going to be a little bit of discomfort, and that's a part of the growth process. I'm sure you had a similar process when you were going through medical school. And I was like, oh, yeah, I did have a similar process, when I was going through medical school or when I went through residency and I became an actual physician. There was a little bit uncomfortable situation where I was in a new territory where I was the boss, but I still needed that experience. So, just having that reframe right there to something that was relatable to me really helped. And then somebody mentioned, I wonder if you can see what a great, physician you are and how you're such a great healer. And then that got me to think like, oh yeah, and that's why I'm doing this. That's why I created AlignUs, because I have such an undoubtedly strong passion to want to help people heal. And yes, that mission of healing is not focused currently on the physical aspect and more on the mental aspect, but no one's going to really outpassion me in my drive to want to help other people heal. And want to, you know what I mean? So then, right?
No one's going to outpassion me.
Right?
I need that on
I know, that's great.
So, so when I started hearing these, I wonders and what ifs, it started opening my brain up to being like, you know what? Yeah, I may have a little bit of this imposter syndrome, but it's normal to, or it's okay. But look at the positive of it and look at what your underlying motivation is of what you're trying to accomplish. The entrepreneurship and the business skills, you're going to learn along the way. Just like I was going to learn new techniques in being in the medicine field. It's a constant learning process, just like it's a constant learning process in entrepreneurship. So that right there was so powerful, and it left me with this incredible high. And it's not like one of those instant gratifications that, we're all looking for, because it does give you that. There's no doubt about it.
Sometimes you do get overwhelmed because you're you're like, whoa, there's a lot of ways to look at it. But yeah, sometimes you do get that little dopamine hit.
but it does, it actually stays with you for a long time, because again, it's that skill set that you're learning of how to reframe your mind to looking at these opportunities or these obstacles as opportunities. And as you keep working on that skill set, each obstacle, it's almost like you'll embrace it. You'll embrace the fear. You'll embrace that, and that will only make you come out stronger than you've ever done before on the other side.
Literally, like if you go back to that reframe I said that you could do on yourself every day, if you imagine there's a version, Dr. Nick, who is the version of you that you know you are here to be, and then there's the other one, right? Which one has imposter syndrome? It just doesn't align. It doesn't align, right, at all. Like, and this is the reframes that do the best are the ones like the best what ifs and the best I wonders, because you know you're going to have a lot of them. Some of them are going to be good, some of them are not going to be good. The ones that are good are the ones that uplift, empower, and inspire or align even. You know, so uplifting is like show them who they're made of, like, you know, remind them who they are and what they've done and where they've been. You know, and give them that like momentum to go up, you know. Empowering is like give them a step. They just can't think of it right now. But like, what if you called 3 patients and asked them, would they sign up for AlignUs? You know, and so like you give them an action step to do. And that way they're like, oh, that sounds amazing. And I don't really have any reason not to do that. So, and those tend to like work better. And then the alignment, you know, like really see the person. See their heart, see how they're good. We're all good inside, you know. Unfortunately, not everyone believes that, but in my belief system, we're all good. And so can you find that? And then can you help point them back to that? You know, like it's going to be okay in this particular phase. And you're right, like all kinds of problems have shown up. I tried to limit it. I think almost every session I'm like, guys, scale 1 to 10, stick to a 5 or 6, please. Like, you know, 7 to 10 are therapy. And I don't know how I feel about this, but a lot of people are like, I want to do a 10. I do allow it and they get reframed. So I feel good about that, you know, and some of those challenges have been taken to therapy for years and they got an unlock here. So I don't want to say no, because I can tell people need the help. They need they need the perspective shift, you know, but, you know, I also need to protect myself. And like, this is not therapy. This is not, you know, a replacement for therapy. To understand your feelings, where they come from, where that egoic structure was built from, that is therapy. This is a shift in perspective. It is just a way to get more lenses to look at the problem. The problem will still exist, you know, so really tough ones that have come in are people who've been diagnosed with cancer, whose kid has had something really horrible happen to them, you know, whose kid cheated on a test and got caught. Like it's a full range of things. Who's somebody whose mother is micromanaging them and they're 50 and they're like, when's this going to stop? You know, all kinds of people who can't wake up, even if they set an alarm. And so it's a big range of challenges that people have that they bring based on a comfort level. That thing is still going to happen. You know, like not wanting to wake up because of the alarm clock is still going to be there, but it's how do you view that? Is that acceptable for you? Is that how you live life? Is that going to get you the most out of life? And that one, of course, the what if that's most powerful is like, what if this is your last day?
We got to get a live reframe.
Yeah. So
I know.
If you, any listener, if you go to Reframe with Mona, definitely sign up, because I do invite that list to reframes anytime. So that's Reframe with Mona. I think we should do them on the podcast. So send them notes, send Nick and Kevin notes saying I need reframes, and then they'll make it happen. There's a book that will come out next year. Nick and Kevin got the preview of that. There's an audio experience with some of the cuts of people who joined the reframe, which I think is really great. It also takes you through, you know, kind of the hacks if you can't get 9 people, if you don't have friends around, if you don't want to talk about your challenge with your friends. So it has, you know, all of that in there. I mean, I'm really passionate about people learning how to do this, you know, and being able to do it for themselves. Being stuck in a frame, it's the worst feeling. It is. And it really is. There's a way out.
Nick, you forgot one of the important reframes that was mentioned when you did the reframe process. It was the exact statement was, what if what you're feeling is what you have to feel
Mm-hmm.
and go through to get to that next level.
There it is.
And it basically it planted new beliefs, and that's what it comes down to. Like, what are your beliefs? So now that those seeds have been planted, you're now thinking differently.
Yeah.
Like, it changed the trajectory of what's possible, which is, again, hope, right? It gives us hope as to what's possible, and that's the power of that reframe.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, this is just such a powerful,
and I'll just add,
experience.
I'll add a little bit more for those people who meditate and those who have a spiritual practice. There's actually just like one more level here that you get to because you have that. It's like a little gift, a little bonus for those of you who are really like spending the time upping that self-awareness, upping that focus on here's who I really am, from there, these emotions that come in are just like clouds, and so doubt is here today and you're like, great, doubt's here, whatever, and you don't get sucked under the cloud. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you practice kind of the meditations, if you are doing that, and this is why I hear so many times from people like, I can't meditate, I don't meditate. Like, that's actually why. Just taking a moment to say, I'm just curious what thought is running this show. Like, I didn't say it, but there's a thought in my head. Who said it? Who said that thought?
Yeah.
Like, where did it come from? Just 1 minute a day allows you to start seeing those thoughts as separate from you, and then allows you to see feelings separate from you. And then when doubt comes up, you're like, well, hello, friend. You're ugly and stupid, but okay, welcome. Just leave soon, please. I don't need you here all day. I don't need you here all week. Or when worry comes in, it has a message for you. And so then again, with the mindfulness practice, you're able to say, so why did you show up today, worry?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're showing up because you think I need to micromanage this, or I need to do that, or I'm not going to look perfect here. Got it. Wrote it down. I've understood the message. Yeah, got the message. Thank you, sis. Bye. Yeah, exactly. Go that way. Yeah. And you can start to be the person who is architecting what is happening in your mind versus having the mind consistently pull you into a frame that you don't know you're in. And now you're pissed off and worried and stressed and drinking and smoking. And, that's where you are. And that's who I am. I can't be in a relationship. I can't do this. I can't do that. Like, this is where you are. And so mindfulness, self-awareness is like, it's a bit of like what you need to reframe on the dime. And that's why you two can do it so well.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Right on.
Amazing.
We need everyone to be like you two. That's the dream.
No.
Yes. Please listen to these guys, support these guys. I will just say, like, it has been such an honor and, and privilege to be able to share this stuff with you, to get the reactions from you all. Kevin and Nick have helped me kind of fine tune how I talk about reframe and help me see the value of it myself. Like, I'm also in a frame of like, it's 9 minutes, bro. It's not a big deal, but actually it is. And you two have really helped me see that. So, I think this is the kind of work that when we get to do it in the world, the people who listen to this, if you can support more, share this, do whatever you can to help people like Nick and Kevin do what they're doing.
All right. Wow.
Thanks, Coach.
Goddess.
Goddess.
Just got to set the standards. You two really show up in the world in a beautiful way. You every day, as far as I've seen, you are really thinking about what is my contribution here. And like, if that doesn't get supported, it's a big shame. That's a big shame. So sign up for the app, do all the things. Please do everything these two say.
Well, look, we're going to have all the information for, if you guys are interested in working with Mona and getting to know more about the 9-minute reframe, we'll have that in the comment section below. But until next time, peace and love.